Hello and welcome to episode 1118 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Monday, December 5th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this afternoon by Justin Mason. Justin, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. We got a schedule switch here. We mentioned it just for those that maybe didn't hear that on the last episode. We're doing Mondays now. So you'll get a Monday afternoon episode and then the Friday one. But we picked a good time to switch because today's been very busy. The winter meetings have kicked off and things are going crazy. So, we didn't even plan this like, oh, maybe the winter meetings will offer us something. No, we're doing this for our schedules and we happen to get blessed by it. And we've got another moves show because there's been enough that's going on just today. I think, the two massive moves that have happened could give us plenty of time to talk about or plenty to talk about. But we've got a lot of other moves, so let's just dive right into it. Let's start with the biggest one, even bigger than the first two, or than the two from today, is Jacob deGrom going to Texas. He got 5 years, which I think is probably the biggest surprise out of the deal, is that they went up to, the 5 years with him, 185 mil. We don't talk terms too much, not always our biggest concern in fantasy. I am surprised that a team went to 5 years, though, just because of the amount or lack thereof pitching that we've seen out of deGrom these last couple years. And so, the Mets, obviously, Mets fans were stricken by this. Don't worry, they're going to be a lot happier when we talk about the next move after this. But let's focus on deGrom to Texas. They were early front runners. This talk, I think, was happening toward the end of the regular season, even like, hey, Texas could be in on this, and they get it done. What was your first reaction when you saw Texas inking Jacob deGrom to a 5-year deal?
I thought good for the Rangers. Like the Rangers, they I think overpaid on a lot of their free agents, but I think that's what you have to do when you're an organization that is really kind of down in the dumps and they're trying to turn things around fairly quickly. And they went from a team that like real weakness was a starting rotation, or at least one of their real weaknesses, into a pretty big strength. I talked about this, on Twitter after it happened. They now have deGrom, John Gray, Martin Perez, Jake Odorizzi, and Dane Dunning, with all those guys that were like, oh, who's going to be their fifth starter? Now going to be in the minor leagues, and Spencer Howard and Glenn Otto and Cole Ragans. Now they've got a ton of depth, and you almost wonder, hey, are they going to either move guys like Dunning or Spencer Howard into the bullpen to bolster that, because that is now the glaring weakness.
I think that's what they do. I thought you were going to say trade. I don't think they should trade. You can never have too much pitching depth. We talk about that all the time, and I like Otto and Reagan's. Cole Winn and Jack Leiter have a chance to contribute this year too. Very much so with Winn. Leiter, we have him as 2023 ETA. I agree with that, but he did pitch in AA this year, so it's not like a guarantee. If he was, if he doesn't get that control in order a little bit.
I think if he forces the issue, he could be up. But I think Cole
That's
Winn
what I'm
is
saying.
Early. And
yeah, I totally agree there. Leiter had a 13% walk rate at AA. So if that doesn't start to come forward a little bit and they start to see him develop, I could see a full year in AAA or maybe just a September call. But like you said, Winn could be up relatively quickly. There's even a universe where maybe he breaks camp if things are breaking out perfectly and he has a huge spring and they say, hey, you won the fifth starter job. Like that's how much Winn could make an impact. So you're right. They have turned this from a total weakness to maybe not a strength, but much more formidable now. And of course, you get one of the best pitchers in the universe, the arguable best pitcher, inning for inning in deGrom. That's going to help. Need to find some health with Gray. Getting out of Colorado did help him improve his results, but did not keep him any healthier as he still battled that. Nobody believes that Martin Perez is going to fully hold what he did last year, but he doesn't need to, right? He's a mid-rotation guy. Even if he puts up his Sierra from this past year, which was 4.08, that's skill interactive ERA, which gets to the heart of, the actual talent that he had, given his strikeouts, walks, home runs, and all that. 4.08 would be completely fine in the middle of the rotation. Odorizzi's a guy, nice 5 and dive. And then, like you said, Dunning, Reagans, Howard, Otto, who are they going to pick from there? You got to love it. Let's focus on deGrom specifically. Mets to the Rangers. Anything that changes your outlook on him there, whether it's the team support, the stadium, the surrounding division, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a worse offense, so maybe you get a little bit less team support in terms of the runs they're going to produce for them. And
Although I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the Mets offense was never really too keen on supporting him, even though they are,
yeah,
of course, on paper better than the Rangers. But a little improvement from this Rangers offense where Seager, Semien, and Lowe are kind of pulling in the same direction with a Josh Young popping off, maybe a Leody Taveras,
mhm.
maybe another piece or two coming through. Might they just be as good as the Mets version that DeGrom got? Not the Mets version that, their full season numbers, but the one that he got, the shitty support one.
It's
There might not
but
be a huge difference.
it's potentially a pretty neutral move. You look at like the X home runs, he might give up one or two more home runs uh, in uh, in Texas as opposed to uh, in City Field. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty neutral move for the most part.
I agree.
Uh, division's still going to be tough, but you still get the bottom feeder team that he had in the America or NL East.
Trading on
Washington is
Miami
now,
or Washington for an
Washington
Oakland.
for Oakland, and
But
yeah,
it's better to pitch in Oakland Stadium
yeah,
than it is Washington.
you know,
So,
the
that's a little
stadiums
improvement.
the stadiums in the West are all pretty great to pitch in outside of maybe the Angels.
Yep.
Houston, I guess, is probably not the best place to pitch, but
It's more neutral, but their
yeah.
lineup makes it
Mhm.
scary. But yeah, they've got a powerhouse there with Houston. That's like facing the Braves. But then I think that the rest of it lines up. And of course, we're going to talk Philly. They went to the World Series. They're a good club. That's on par, with I think what Seattle is, in terms of
Yep.
another quality team there. So I do think that all that's pretty neutral as far as the stuff around DeGrom. Okay, now we need to talk DeGrom himself. I think we've talked a bit about this when you were doing your projections, and even when you were really muting his innings and keeping them down, he still was winding up number one or very high on your projection sheet. How many innings is Jacob DeGrom going to get, and are you going to pay for him? Are you going to go for him knowing that you probably can't expect much more than, I don't know, 160 innings? Like what did you put for him in your projections, and what is the realistic expectation? Those might be the same answer.
Yeah, that's the really tough part, is figuring out where his innings total comes this year, and trying to get there we go.
I
Trying to
put
get my projections.
135 while you're pulling yours up. I
I
put
have
135,
140, so
and he was fourth on my sheet. Where's he on yours?
I'm pretty sure even with 140, he was the top overall pitcher.
I believe it. I believe it.
Pretty darn close to it.
You know what? I cut the wins pretty hard. Not even for Texas. This was just in general. Again, going back to the lack of support he usually got from the Mets. So that's what kind of undercut him a little bit. But he's not that far behind. Actually, my number 3 might surprise you, Carlos Rodon, and then Cole and Burns are actually, as far as projections, that's my top 4.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if my my spreadsheet will come up that has the actual dollar values. But let's see.
I got 25.95 for him, so call it $26. But then Rodon was at 26.07, so they're really 12 cents apart.
I gave him 11 wins. That dropped him down.
That's what I got.
That dropped him down to 3rd. And I have him 4th in my ranks because I still kept Cole over him.
Yeah.
So
now comes the question of, will you pay for it? Because it's going to be a first, second round pick come main event season. Right now in Draft Champions, by the way, I really think people are overjudging the lack of pitching going early in Draft Champions in terms of relating it to how it's going to look in draft season in March. There's always a push-up. It does not matter. There will be in the main event, there will be a push-up. There might not be a lot of first-round pitchers because that was kind of the talking point, but there will be 6 or 7 in the second round, and there'll probably be 2 or 3 that do push up into the first. So try not to judge the SP market from Draft Champion season as a way of what you're going as a way to try to figure out what you're going to be able to get in main event and redraft league season, whether you play the main event or not. So as a first, second round pick, do you see yourself buying DeGrom anywhere?
Maybe.
Okay.
If I'm
What sort of scenarios? Let's hear.
I think if I start with like a top 5 pick and he's there in the second round, I think.
Okay, so if it gets back maybe a little bit too
Yeah.
far as you're
I,
considering.
I
You're like,
it seems really unlikely that'll happen for me, only because if he is pitching well once we get to those March drafts, and
he's
the
going in the
velocity
first
looks
round.
good, he's going in the first round, and
There's
I will
no
not.
doubt. And we're
I
talking
will
about
not.
DeGrom, by the way. Sorry,
Yeah.
we haven't said his name in a while. This is DeGrom that we're getting in on, and I totally agree with you there. The second that he's dominating in spring, price going through the roof.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: are you more inclined to purchase DeGrom services in an auction league where you have control over that, and then you can go get another first rounder if you wanted with your budget, and you're not hamstrung to missing out on those hitters? Does auction make you more inclined to go for somebody like DeGrom or not?
I think it might, especially if I go, hey, I'm going to leave this with two aces, and Degrom's going to be one of them. I think I'm more inclined to do it in a league where I have unlimited IL spots.
Yeah.
And so like NFBC, like if I do the ultimate auction, or not the ultimate, the auction championship again this year, there's no IL spots in that.
Yep.
Or if I'm in a league with only 3 IL spots, I just am much more reluctant to take that risk. But a league like Tout Wars with unlimited IL spots, I could definitely make the argument there that I should do it and that I could do it.
Tout Wars
really,
NL only, right?
No, I'm in the mix.
Oh, you're in the mix, right? That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Pardon me. Continue.
I think the hard part though is starting pitching is so deep this year. Like it's just so deep. And I just when you're getting guys like Lucas Giolito, who's a former first round starting pitcher, outside of top 50 starters, like why even take, if I'm going to take the risk, why not take the risk on a guy like Giolito than paying for the first round guy in DeGrom? Like I just
the upside is slightly different between those two, though, too. And I understand what you're saying.
Absolutely, but like, is it like if they both hit their upside, like how much more? Like, is it? Are we talking 50 starting pitchers difference? No, we're not. Like we're talking, the first versus the fifth starting pitcher, right? Like
Giolito's not quite going that late though. He's the 42nd pitcher off the
okay, but still 42.
I mean, that's still yeah. I just want to say, like, because outside the top 50, I think
okay. So like, is he are they a 40 starting pitcher difference? Even if they both
at upsides, no, but you also have to factor in
and I don't like Giolito. I'm not going to get Giolito anywhere. Like,
I thought
a random example.
I know
I have Giolito like 60th.
You're quitting him then, right? Aren't you a previous Giolito fan?
Yeah, he was my SP1.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. So this is a scorned lover, eschewing further relations with Giolito.
Giolito, like, I mean, I could definitely get back in if he looks like himself in spring, but
here's the tough thing about that though, Justin. He looked like himself throughout many parts of 2022
in games where he then gave up 5 or 6 rounds. Yeah,
he was so frustratingly inconsistent that I don't even know that 3-4 starts in spring are going to put me all the way back in. And it was not a single. There was no smoking gun on
3 or 4 starts in spring. Like if he does that, he will be back to being a.
That's also true. He'll be like top 25 SP.
Yeah, there's no way I'll be able to do that. His real issues was when he fell behind in counts. Like you look at I on a recent article, if you go to Fangraphs and look at, I think it's his top article is mine.
It is the overvalued.
And like I did a whole graph on like when he fell behind in counts, like what he was doing. He just became hittable. He just lived in the zone when he fell behind counts
with weak pitches too, right? It's one of those things where the way to envision it based on these numbers that Giolito was putting up. Basically, if he got behind, he panicked and forced it in there. Was basically just lobbing one in to make sure it was over the plate, but then it was over the fence, right? And home runs were a big issue. So didn't mean to derail on Giolito. You were just making a comp on somebody that you'd rather take a gamble on. I totally get that. Let me ask you, since we've talked about this guy as a gamble a few different times, would you take the discounted gamble, or actually maybe not that discounted? That's kind of the thing we've been talking about on somebody like Tyler Glass now returning at his price, or DeGrom in that first, second round range?
No, I think I'd rather have DeGrom.
Okay. I know that you're still pretty out on Glass now. He's the 25th pitcher off the board. DeGrom, by the way, is 7th. So right now he is at something of a discount. I don't have isolated to when he signed though, so he'll definitely go up from there. And again, come spring, the second we see DeGrom being DeGrom,
I think
be
if you're good,
top
if
3
you're going to
pitcher.
take a shot on DeGrom, now's the time. Like now, I mean,
Fully agree.
you're not going to.
Fully agree.
I mean, like I think even moving to Texas won't raise his price a ton because people
No.
are going to be like, oh, it's a worse team.
It'll just be because he's signed. There's that
Yeah.
certainty of being signed. Not that it's just a
Yeah,
psychological
everybody
thing.
knew it was going to get signed. But yeah, I agree. Like anytime someone's name's just mentioned, you get a bump. But
You get a little love.
You could actually see him slip a little bit if people are afraid of like what his win potential is in that division.
True.
With the Astros and the Mariners in there. So though, I mean, how much different is that than going up against the Braves and the Phillies who just went to the World Series? Like I don't think it is. So,
and again, the way they supported him or didn't, his
Yeah.
win probability in New York was always tough for DeGrom.
He has a chance to win a game every time he's on the mound. Like the question is how many times is he going to be on the mound? So
that's DeGrom to Texas.
Now.
Let's talk about how he was replaced, because obviously Mets fans, they did not feel great. I saw some coping pretty hard and saying, "Oh, we didn't want him anyway, dude. I hate that guy now." There were some real turns on DeGrom trying to convince themselves that they didn't really want him anyway. Now, I will agree that, it's not my money, but so, never get too caught up in how much player is making unless you're paying the money for it, right? Like some of the reactions are always weird. The only issue that I have on something like this is if the 5-year deal at that term causes a ripple effect of not purchasing other players to go around a player. That's the only reason to like be upset about a potential contract. Otherwise, if the team is going to keep spending after they sign it, why would you care?
I want to just echo something I said on Twitter after this signing, because I can't remember who it was outlining. It might have been Brian Taggart, but just was outlining like how much the Rangers have spent in free agency in the last 2 years. $800 million.
Damn, billion, dude.
And I think that didn't even include like the Martin Perez re-signing. Like every team can afford every player.
Yes.
Like there's just no like the Rangers, who was one of the worst teams in baseball like 2 years ago. Every team can sign every player. It's just,
and if I hear one more person say that Texas Rangers are a small market in Dallas, fucking Fort Worth, I'm going to scream, dude. Dallas is a massive market. You just mean a less popular team that isn't doing well when you say small market. If you say Dallas, Texas is a small market. I didn't see it prominently, but I saw enough that it drove me insane. Well, a small market team getting DeGrom. That is not a small market. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Every team just got $200 million from that deal with Disney. Like every team got $200 million, and there will be plenty of teams that do not have a $200 million player.
Yep. And I mean, we're going to get into a signing that was the biggest ever for a team, and it ain't one of these top ones. Every team has money. The ones that don't spend are doing it by choice. Do not buy into the myth of poor team. We've beat this drum a lot before, but we're going to beat it every year until people understand that. Like, don't suck up to owners and be like, "Oh, well, they just can't afford it, dude." Anyway, Mets tears dried up quickly. I mean, they had a weekend to get it out. The Jets lost too. And I know not all Mets fans are Jets fans, but because they rhyme, I think a lot of them
should be, yeah.
And my buddy Paul Costava is a diehard for both. So, they lost as well. So it was a tough weekend. But fret not, Monday morning brought a lot of joy to them as they inked Justin Verlander to replace Jacob DeGrom. Not a bad fill-in when you can get the reigning AL Cy Young to fill in for your Uber God who just left to Texas. Interestingly enough, Verlander is coming via Texas, not the Rangers, of course, but the state of from the Astros. He's going to sign a 2-year term. So maybe it was something about the length of deal with DeGrom that gave the Mets pause, because we know it wasn't the per year, because they're willing to spend. And they turned around and showed that with
reportedly the Mets did not want to go a 5th year.
And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
I know it's Jacob DeGrom. I know he's a god, and I know you plan for, part of the term of a long-term deal for somebody in their 30s to not be very good. even still 5 years felt really tough, especially when I can turn around and get Verlander for 2 at
Mhm.
87, even at his elevated age. So he's going to go there to the Mets, basically a perfect fill-in for DeGrom. How do you feel about Verlander going from Houston to the Mets? Any real change there for you on outlook?
Yeah, I mean, worse offense, but it's also a park that I'm double checking, but I think the park's going to play him a
Park is
little.
better.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
a a decent bit. The
mhm,
Citi Field is maybe underratedly great for pitchers.
yeah, yeah. I love
26th
City.
in park factor over the last
Mhm.
3 years, and that's just in whole numbers, so it's a 96, and you get there's, like, a lot of ties, right? Once you get past the outliers at the top, Coors, Great American, and Fenway at 112, 111, and 109 respectively, there is a tight band from 104 to 98 that encompasses teams ranking from 4 to 23. So, these are small changes here, but the bottom line is City Field at a 96 rating has always been very good to pitch in, and it does not boost anything offensively. Take, for example, somewhere like Comerica that ranks just above them at 24th. They overly inflate triples like crazy because of some of that spacious outfield, and same with doubles. Like even some of these pitcher friendly parks have things that they do well for hitters. City Field got none of it. They are blue across the board, except for strikeouts, which means that you get more strikeouts as a pitcher. So you want that to be red if you're looking at a pitcher. So you look at Verlander in City, going to be a better field, maybe a slightly worse offense, probably negligible. He doesn't move in your rankings then, right?
No, no, I don't think he moves in my ranks at all. And I had a question in my chat today, like, "Hey, are you worried about him pitching in cold weather after being?" He's like, "Well, he pitched in Detroit,
Yeah.
so I'm not like super worried about that." And two, like, if anything, like I might give him a little bit of a bump because most of these hitters are not gonna have seen him a ton. The first time pitching in the National League,
It's
so
also true.
uh,
That's also true.
you
By the
know,
way,
like
quick mention, Mets offense was better than Houston's.
that's
It's
weird.
better offense based on the past
That
year. I
that
know that
that that
that
that early start was just so dominant for them. I mean,
yeah, they were incredible.
um,
They were second in average, second in OBP, sixth in OPS. Houston was 12, 7, and 7. So,
mhm,
not a huge change there, but just want to give the Mets offense their props. Yeah, that you could have some guys that aren't as familiar with Verlander. Of course, there's video and stuff. Those gaps are thinned out due to technology these days, but you could certainly have some of that. And Verlander's just dominant. I know last year you had the pause button on him with regards to him, Verlander coming off TJ. You didn't want to pay the premium. I understood that. I was not sharing that with you, but I understood.
mhm,
I wasn't going to blast anybody that didn't want to pay for a 38-year-old coming off of TJ. I've got my bias. He's my favorite pitcher ever, and that bias. Sometimes your bias can help you a little bit. And I got lucky on the great season there. What about now? Now his price is obviously higher than it was this time last year, but by the time draft season rolled around, he was pretty high. He goes out, has this amazing season. Verlander is now going to be the seventh pitcher off the board. Let me see here. It
no,
is
lower than that.
12th. 12th.
Yeah,
He's the 12th pitcher off the board. A relative discount, all things considered. Are you interested?
yeah, I'm completely interested. I haven't gotten him yet, but um, for some reason, I really like the old guys this year. I'm a big fan of Scherzer.
You're in on the old heads.
I'm a big fan, and I'm in on Mets apparently now. Even though I didn't when I did my projections, I didn't know that Verlander was gonna necessarily be a Met. So yeah, no, I mean, I feel like for some reason my projections not seeing him very
You have
high.
Justin Verlander ranked 198. No, I'm just kidding.
That would be really weird. Oh, there he is. Yeah, I have him as my seventh pitcher.
There you go.
But via my projections and
How many innings?
I think I have him 10th via my ranks. So probably need to move him up a little bit. I have Verlander for 180 innings.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know, it seems right now that that's the only thing that can stop him is health, right? That's the
Yeah.
only thing that derailed him to this point. He was absolutely dominant 18, 19, gets the TJ in 20, it eats up 20 and 21, comes back, wins a Cy Young. I mean, you could talk about how, listen, 175 ERA that he had, he didn't quite earn that, quote unquote, based on his underlying metrics. I understand that. I grant that that is the case with Verlander. Okay, give him his ERA indicators, and you're still going to be very happy. Even the 309 Sierra, like who's upset with that if you got a low threes ERA from him? But I think there's reason to believe that you can get another sub 3 ERA, bunch of strikeouts, quality innings, and wins potential. So Verlander stays a god. Let's move on then to Kershaw staying with the Dodgers. Not a whole lot here because he stays. It's just another name off the board. How do you feel about Kershaw? Obviously, you have your anti-Dodgers bias, but I know that
Mhm.
not let that keep you from drafting one if you think they're the right player at the right time. You're trying to win, not impress your fandom on everything with your fantasy teams. Do you take Kershaw, as a 120 inning type guy? I mean, I think that's where we should be with our expectations these days. I don't know how Steamer gets to 163 innings. I think the best
Yeah.
we could really do is a buck 40. In fact, I think that's what my projection is. And even that's a bit friendly because we have not seen that the last 2 years. But knowing that the market understands that Kershaw is no longer an innings guy, are you comfortable buying him as the 39th pitcher off the board for 120 to 140 innings with Kershaw?
I am about there. I have him 42nd.
Okay,
Um, and
that's not
so
bad.
I mean, I think I'm right there with like the ADP. So I
Yeah,
think
he's 39, so you are right there. I'm pretty high then because I've got him in the upper 30s there.
probably 140 innings, maybe a little bit rich of a projection. I mean, I have him for 125. It's pretty much what he's done the last 2 seasons.
Yep.
He did 121 and 126, is if I'm remembering correctly. Uh, and so, like, I have a really hard time projecting him for more than that. Now, I think the argument for him, at least the way the Dodgers stand right now, it would be the argument to say, hey, the Dodgers don't have the arms that they used to. Walker
Mhm.
Bueller is not going to be back anytime soon, or maybe late in the season, something like that. Andrew Heaney is probably not returning. Tyler Anderson definitely not returning.
Be gone.
Uh, so they may need him a little bit more. They may not have the luxury of being like, hey, here's an IL stint, rest up for the playoffs and stuff. They may be in a position, even with a team like the Padres, potentially, of challenging for that division, after beating in the playoffs. So
Mhm.
they may have to have him pitch a little bit more. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So we'll see. But I mean, I think on a per inning basis, he's just a fantastic pitcher. It's just a matter of how many innings can we really project. I'm not comfortable projecting more than 125, considering he hasn't thrown more than 126 since 2019.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think that's out of pocket to be pretty cautious on the innings and lean low. In fact,
Mhm.
yeah, 140 is like the high end I would do. I actually looked at my thing. It is 124 that I have. So
Yeah.
I knew I was in the 120 to 140 range. 124 is where I come out. And if you get anything extra from Kershaw, that's gravy, right? Yeah, I would not plan on that though. I
Mhm.
really don't think that you want to go in saying, "Oh, I'm gonna get 140." Put him at a number that you can really be comfortable with and understand that you might not even reach that goal. But on a per inning basis, Kershaw is still absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And that's why I am willing to pay the market price of the 39th pitcher off the board.
I think if you have
Obviously,
a really stable 1-2, he's a great number 3. Like,
exactly. Literally took the words out of my mouth.
yeah,
If I've got some perceived workhorses, at least, because you never know. But if I've got Sandy and another veteran in that SP2 range that I think is an innings guy, I think Musgrove
like
can put up.
Framber,
Yeah.
Musgrove.
Oh yeah. If I go Sandy
Um,
Framber, I got no problem going Kershaw.
yeah,
Might be a little light on K's there, although the volume that those two have offsets their K rates. So yeah, not a whole lot of change there with Kershaw, but that's another ace off the board. That does leave Carlos Rodon as the ace. The number one ace that's left. Where do you like him? Give me a favorite or two. I'm not going to hold you to it too much, but where do you see him landing? Apparently, the latest report is that he's seeking a 6-year deal, so that's going to put some teams off, I'm sure, just given his health track record. He stayed healthy these last 2 years and had excellent seasons. The talent is there, but can you really pay for 6 years? He is going to be age 30 this year. Who do you like for Rodon? Give me a front runner or two.
I mean, I hate to say it, but the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get
I
it.
mean, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, maybe.
I still want the Orioles to do it. Now the Orioles did get an ace. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, they did.
They signed an absolute stud, but I would
Orioles.
love them
I
to
mean,
get.
I'd love them to get him as well, but I don't know that I don't know that that's the.
I think they're going to spread the money out a little bit more. They signed the guy that we're going to talk about in a moment. I think they might sign 3-4 players as opposed to going out and making that big stomp, big play for somebody like Rodon. But I want them to kind of keep their Seattle Mariners growth trajectory happening. And, the Mariners signed Robbie Ray. So I think Carlos Rodon's a perfect analog for Baltimore to do that and then make the playoffs. But yeah, I think one of the top teams makes a lot of sense. And because of the lack of depth from the Dodgers that we're used to seeing, and we didn't really see this past year, and they don't have it going into next year, I do think that they could be in on him. Baltimore's still going to be my heart pick, what I wish for, but I do think a top team, especially if he stands firm on that 6 years, I think a top team will come in and make the play. Let's talk about a couple of smaller tier pitchers that are off the board, including the Baltimore one. We'll actually start with him. Let's go Kyle Gibson to Baltimore. It's probably why they don't need Rodon, right? They got an absolute superstar pitcher here. Now, I'm not sure I can be convinced otherwise, but you can try to convince me. This, to me, seems like a landscaping play. Their landscaping guys just weren't cutting it with all the new extra space from the outfield. And because of that, they knew that they had to get somebody who could really do the job. And, we'll see what he can do on the mound, but Kyle Gibson's going to be able to cut that extra outfield grass very well. So I think that was the basis of the signing. Well, you can have a baseball take if you want about it.
Well, you have to think too, with the new dimensions, there's more outfield grass to cut.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like that becomes so crucial for them to get done. And the old guy just couldn't hack it.
Yeah. No,
I saw all that extra real estate and he just wasn't doing the job.
I think you're right. But I mean, listen, I grew up in Washington, D.C. before the Nationals. So what team did I grow up kind of rooting for?
Baltimore, really that's right.
Big fan is Baltimore. I
talked about that here and there before.
Yeah. So I wasn't really a baseball fan until I started playing fantasy. That happened when I moved to California. So that's how I became a Giants fan. Though there's actually a better story behind it. I'll tell one day.
Okay.
But I mean, this is kind of like a little bit of for me a nice sweet moment, right? The man I've always loved is going to a city that I've always had a soft spot for. So. And I think this is a really good landing spot for him, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of these right-handed pitchers do really, really well in Baltimore because of these new dimensions.
They had 4 Kyle Gibsons in the rotation last year, right?
Yeah.
Like how is Austin Voth, all that different? I don't say that to blast Voth. I like Voth. I think, we've had all of our jokes about Gibson, and he ended up burning me last year because I tried to steal him from you. And if I had just gotten rid of him after
if you just cut him like I originally said you should
at the very beginning, yes. If I'd have just cut him after April, I would have gotten 5 starts of a 2.93 ERA. But even holding him all year, if I'd have just gotten off the train in August, because the 9.73 ERA in September was the real killer from Kyle Gibson. I will say this, by the way, he did have a favorable home road split where he was actually better at home, and obviously Philly's a good hitter's park. So he's going to get a much friendlier park here going to Baltimore. I think it could be in line with Texas, and we saw what he was able to do. I'm not saying he's going to put up a sub-3 ERA again, but he flourished in Texas because of what, Justin? A 0.7 homer 9, and the new Baltimore obviously plays way better than Baltimore's ever played. And I do feel like if we see the home run suppression there again this year, that could really favor Gibson. So for all the jokes that we make about him, I might actually be in next year now after originally saying I'm crossing him off because of how much he hurt me this year. What do you think? Are you gonna be buying? I know you were never out.
I'm always, of course, I'm gonna buy it.
But what about at a raised price? Let me get.
What's the price right now? It can't
be expensive. He is the
581.
He's an
afterthought. So, even if he jumps up 100 spots, I'll take a shot.
Dude, even if he's pick 400, that would be pitcher 98. I think you would do that, yeah.
Because then he'd be going around Nick Pivetta, Michael Wacha, Domingo Herman.
Yeah,
the guy who talks about next, Zach Eflin. Yeah, I mean, I'm taking him there.
That's
But
exactly the world he's in. So I think Cal Gibson does get back more into some of the mixed league realm where he can at least be a team streamer for you. Just don't steal him from one of your best friends because the karma will come back to burn you. It might
yeah,
take
yeah,
6 months to manifest, but it will
that's
eventually
that,
get you.
that's some brutal karma. Honestly, I wish that karma had not come around. I would have liked to see you cash in the main, especially
God.
if I wasn't gonna. I think what this does though is start making a real kind of a real logjam, especially if they do go sign another starter.
Yeah.
They've got all these guys that like had like mini breakouts, and then they came back to earth, and Tyler Wells, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kremer, we've got Grayson
And
Rodriguez who
both.
is and both Rodriguez on the DL Hall. Like
Mm-hmm.
they've got some options, and so like if you have one of these guys that you really like, with for me it's Bradish.
I'm a
Uh,
Bradish guy too. I agree.
but like a couple of these guys are probably going to find themselves outside the rotation looking in.
No doubt. But that's, I think in DC season, you should still stay committed to them because teams cycle through starters. You don't have to be as afraid. But
Injuries happen.
yes,
Maybe they can use this as a reason not to bring up Grayson Rodriguez to start the year. So.
But then you got to be paying attention in spring to see who is angling for those jobs because you don't want to take too many 6-7 starters in a redraft. In
Rodon
DC,
make a lot of sense too, because I just looked at
telling
their rotation. It is all right.
all righties. You go
So,
Rodon, Bradish, Gibson, Wells, Grayson as the 5. You got Kramer and Voth as depth. You got DL Hall still working out his command. I mean,
Bruce Zimmerman, Spencer Walk. I mean, they've got a lot.
Spencer Watkins did some decent things. Yeah, Michael Bowman. These guys aren't studs, but it's depth. They have legit depth that they can run almost 10 deep at this point. I still think Rodon could be in play for them and actually would be a good fit. Let's stay in the AL East, talk Zach Eflin. He was the deal I was talking about that was the biggest ever for the team that signed him, and it was indeed the Rays. This was their biggest free agent signing ever.
That's insane. That is the biggest one they've ever done.
It really speaks negatively to them, but 3-year deal, $40 million guaranteed. Now, I was a little critical is probably not the right word. I'm not just trying to cover because I'm quote unquote wrong at this point, but I was openly questioning why Eflin turned down his portion of the mutual option for 15 mil. And I was like, well, where are you going to get 15 mil, especially now that you're a reliever? That was my biggest thing that I was wrong on, though, was that he was going to be a reliever coming into this year. And I was quickly, I don't want to say corrected, because again, it wasn't like an acrimonious thing. It was just a discussion point. People were like, I think he's probably going to be starting still. So he can maybe get a pretty good multi-year deal. And those folks were right. 3 years, 40 mil is way better than 115 for Zach Eflin, and he is going to be starting again. Now, goes to the Rays, and it's a double-edged sword. Instantly, when somebody goes to the Rays as a pitcher, you're excited because it's the Rays. Oh, what can they do? Can they get the max out of this guy? Sure. Conversely, though, you think about innings. Are they going to limit his innings and make him a 5 and dive kind of guy? I don't necessarily think that I'm too worried about that. Zach Eflin does not have major third time through issues that make me think that they're going to have to fully smother him and get him out of there after those first 2 times through. So I think there is a chance that Zach Eflin could be a solid, 5, 6, 7 inning guy for them. Now, this past year, he did have a bit of that third time through. It went from 570 the second time through to 795 third time through. Although he weirdly got beat up early too, 827 OPS the first time through for Zach Eflin. But looking at his career, you see a 765. Excuse me, 760. Pardon me, I lost my spot there. 784 second time through, 773 third time through. Do you think Zach Eflin can be a consistent 5+ inning guy with the Rays?
I think he can. I don't know if we know exactly what Zach Eflin is, which is weird to say for a guy at his age. like
Because
he, I
there's
mean,
some real love for him too, by the way. In that thread, again, this was back when he declined his mutual. People were like, "Hey, he's got some really good pitches. If the right team got him, little did they know it would be the Rays. If the right team gets him, they could pare down that arsenal a bit and really have something." It kind of got me excited about Eflin, and then he signs with a team that we always get excited about, and now all of a sudden, I'm kind of in.
yeah, I think the Rays will do what the Rays do, which is toy the things a little bit. Um, I'm kind of excited because I was kind of excited already once I realized he wasn't going to be in Philadelphia and he was going to be signing somewhere else. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what he's going to do in that stadium. Because remember, I mean, this is a place where a lot of hitters have had a hard time adjusting to that batting eye, which always helps the pitchers a little bit. And they also need a guy who is going to just throw innings, right? Like,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, at some point, you got to let somebody eat up some
mhm,
innings. And I do think Eflin could be that guy here. Again, he has depth of arsenal, so you're not worried about. That's a lot of times why they limit these guys because they're two pitch. Rasmussen, 2-pitch guy. Jake Odorizzi was a 2-pitch guy. So they have countless others too, where they got the 2 good pitches, but they don't really have that third. They can't turn the lineup over and get those opposite handers. I don't think Eflin has that problem. And if they've got some plans for what they want to do with his arsenal, I don't see why he can't be a consistent 5-6 inning guy. I mean, they let Jeffrey Springs come out of the bullpen and put up a lot more 5+6 inning starts than people probably realize.
mhm.
I think Eflin can definitely be that guy. So, like I said, I'm intrigued, and I think he's going to be somebody that I end up drafting. I don't want to say a decent bid because maybe just 1 or 2, but I like
Yeah,
Eflin in Tampa Bay.
I'll be interested to see where his price goes because I mean the price is definitely going to go up now that he's signed with the Rays, especially with
Yes.
such a big deal.
What's the
But
high end for you? Where's he at now, and what do you think the high end is?
I think he's around 470.
Okay.
I think he was like right in that.
I did an
Right.
updated one yesterday. I shouldn't have asked you. I should have just looked. Let me get it
Uh,
here.
yeah. So he's 417 right now.
Okay.
If he I mean, the hard part is if he bumps up, 50 spots, then he's in the Alex Wood area, Adam Wainwright area, Luis Ortiz area.
I like him better than all those guys. What are you talking about?
Oh, you do? What about Jose Suarez?
I like Suarez. We've talked about Suarez. I think from our own discussions of him, I kind of got hyped on him.
Yeah, I mean, he moves into an area of guys I like. Not necessarily I like necessarily more than Eflin, but guys I really like. And so he won't be off my board, but like he'll be competing with some guys I'm pretty high on. Kyle Bradish is in that area.
Yeah, he's in that range where you probably have guys you're a fan of, but he
Yeah,
would join. Eflin's going to join my group of guys I'm a fan of in that.
yeah.
range.
He'll
Let's just
be
say
he'll
it
be
like
in
that.
that tier. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. All right, let's shift gears and go to the hitters because we have a massive move. We were just ranking these in order of impact. Obviously, this move would have been probably second on our list or third, but I wanted to go hitters or pitchers, then hitters. Trey Turner to Philly, literally like 20 minutes before we started.
Mm-hmm.
11 years, 300 mil. This was another one that was like rumored pretty heavily. They were a front runner, and they made it happen. What do you think about Trey Turner going back to the NL East this time, joining Philly?
I mean, I love it. Like he gets, one of my favorite players getting away from my least favorite team. Now all they need to do is like trade away Mookie Betts, and I'll be extremely happy. But obviously that's not gonna happen. But
Probably not.
this is a fantastic landing spot for him, right? Philly's a great place to hit. He's gonna hit on top of that really, really good lineup. I think it really helps the team kind of overcome a little bit of the missing offense they're going to have from Harper
Exactly.
earlier on in the season. So, and then once Harper comes back, that lineup becomes even thicker with its best player back. So, yeah, I mean, I love this. I mean, he was already going off the board like number 1, number 2 in most drafts. I think
he's going to go
continue
0
do
with
that.
now.
Yeah.
He's going to rise to 0 with.
I'm sure there are going to be people who be like, well, he's leaving that amazing Dodgers offense. Like he's going to a just amazing offense in a better park.
In a better park, yeah.
Yeah. And like the parks in the National League East, I mean, outside of like Mets and Marlins, like are pretty, Washington's a great place to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia's a great place to hit. Atlanta's a great place to hit. Like these are all
It does lose Colorado, of course, though, too.
Yeah, that's true.
Not as much,
more
but
balanced schedule. He's gonna
yeah.
get to go to Colorado.
Yeah, so he will still get at least one trip. And it's Trey Turner. I'm not worried. You know, when he was a Nat, we weren't worried. He's been in this division before. That's the thing too. When someone returns to a division, you know damn well that they're comfortable with the dimensions of the 5 parks in that division because they've been playing there so long. So I'm not worried about that with Trey. And as you mentioned, can't really move him up any higher than first, second. And obviously, from what you've said, you're not moving him down either.
And the Phillies were top 5 team in terms of team stolen bases last year.
I like that.
Dodgers weren't bad. Dodgers were 9th, but
okay. So both teams, both you can expect him to run wherever
he's not
he
going
would
to
have gone
stop
between
running.
those.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to stop running. So.
And that's important. You got to look at that because even if he goes to even if he had gone to a spot that might have cost Trey Turner like 5 or 6 deals, that can be huge.
Mm-hmm.
But we do not expect that. If anything, maybe they let him turn it up a little bit more, especially like you said, to bridge the gap on some of that missing offense for Harper. Maybe he gets to run early and then slows down as the season goes on. Who can say for sure? We'll see. Let's keep it going with hitters since there's not a whole lot with the Turner move. This was a biggie. Jesse Winker's on the move again. After a disastrous season with Seattle, that park move was a nightmare and injuries crept back up into his life. Winker and Abraham Toro are headed to Milwaukee for Colton Wong. This is a really interesting mid-tier deal. Let's start with Winker going back to the National League Central and joining the Brewers. How did you feel when you saw that news?
I don't really care.
I know you got him fully off your board, and we have a disagreement on that.
We're talking about a guy who already this offseason had a knee surgery and a back surgery.
Mm-hmm.
There were real questions about his work ethic in Seattle. One of the reasons apparently why Seattle wanted to trade him is because he's lazy.
Interesting. I hadn't seen that.
Yeah. That he does not like to do work outside of just playing in the games and stuff. And
can't really blame their work. Sounds stupid.
Yeah, work's dumb, but yeah, I guess even it was a young team that really liked to work out together and stuff like that, and he would just pass up on doing that kind of stuff.
It's interesting too because we project a lot on Winker because he has those fun fan interactions and everything, and he's seen as a really good guy, and so I think that might cloud him from some of this criticism here about who he really is at working. And maybe that goes into the rampant injury history that Winker has, right? We talk about how staying healthy can be a skill. Listen, sometimes your body's just going to give out and you're going to have troubles, but staying in good shape certainly aids your ability to stay healthy. And maybe that's part of the problem with Winker and why he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Our disagreement came with, I'm taking a shot on a guy who's hit like that outside pick 300. One thing I will say, though, in the December drafts, he has moved inside the top 300. So I'm still, at a 293 ADP, 70th outfielder off the board, though. I will say it is literally insane for you to say he's off your board as a 70th outfielder, though. A guy who can hit this for all of his flaws, you literally said not off my board.
Yeah, he's not technically off my board. Especially because outfield sucks so bad.
This is exactly the kind of guy you take a shot on, though, right? I'm not a huge Winker guy, and I was fully out last year once he moved to Seattle, and the injuries. I fully grant you all that, but that's why he's picked 300. So
give me Austin Meadows.
How are you going to complain about Winker's health and then take Austin fucking Meadows, who was creating diseases to get last year?
If I'm gonna take a guy, I'm gonna.
He got knee vertigo or something. He was combining issues.
Give me Tommy Pham. Give me.
You want to talk about health? That guy's 100 years old. He's like the shitty Jesse Winker.
Give me Alec Thomas. Give me Avisel Garcia.
One too much. Where are you in the draft board? Oh, these guys are going later. Okay.
Yeah, these are all guys going out. Give me our boy. I will share him with you, Edward Oliveira.
I knew you were going to say when you said our boy. I knew where you were going. I knew where you were going. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. Just that he's guy who's got a real platoon risk. Though he did hit lefties better this year, and it wasn't like BABIP influence or anything like that. He just didn't hit righties this year,
That's the
which is
thing. I mean, he
a
did
real problem.
nothing against
Yeah.
righties. Winker put up a
Um,
651 OPS against them. That's just dreadful.
yeah.
And yeah, he did waste kind of a decent outing of a 794 OPS against lefties. Usually does have a platoon problem, but I like going back to the better park. I just think that this is the kind of gamble I'm going to take late. You know, if
It's not a bad gamble. I mean, at this point, like you said, like 70th outfielder off the board, who cares? Like,
it's
right?
an
If
injury gamble, and I'm not going
if
to pile up a bunch of them.
yeah, I prefer other ones, so I'm just
That's
not.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I had to get you off the he's off my board thing though. That's the one thing I wasn't going to accept. This is a plus hitter who's been good, but I fully understand the risks. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh no, he's not a health risk at all. He plays all the time. Yeah, right. So there's definitely issues with Winker, but if you want to get back in, I think that there is reason to with the late pick, but don't take too many guys like this. If you start getting 3-4 guys that are this health challenged, you're going to get burnt. Winker would be my one major health gamble later in drafts. Let's talk
I
about,
mean, it's a good gamble moving to moving. It's not Miller
yeah,
Park anymore.
but yeah,
It's
great
something else.
American Family Greatness or something.
I'm
I
still
don't
calling
know.
you Miller.
Yeah, I don't these park changes, whatever. Let's talk about the other pieces in the deal. Not Toro. Sorry, Toro. I know we had some deep league love for him last year, but he didn't do shit. Colton Wong. Colton Wong is one of those guys, classic, better real life player than fantasy due to the fact that he's obviously a Gold Glove defender, but he's not a bad fantasy player, especially because he steals. How do you feel about Colton Wong moving now from Milwaukee to Seattle?
Definitely don't like it for the power, but because I mean, he has 15 home runs with Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Thoroughly expect that to come down a little bit in Seattle. So you're probably talking like 10 to 12 type thing.
St. Louis, pretty difficult to hit in. He had a 12, an 11, an 11 there. So I think that's where you're kind of capping out is the low double digits for Colton Wong. I agree with you there.
But he'll run. Seattle's a team that doesn't mind pushing it on the base paths, and I think he get for average. And but more importantly, the defense is really, really good for those pitchers, and I love seeing them kind of shore that up. My main concern becomes not for any of these guys we've even mentioned. It becomes for J.P. Crawford, who the Mariners reportedly still are in on the other three big shortstops.
See, and I thought they would go for a big shortstop and move JP to second. So I'm right there with you. When this trade happened, I was like,
and Crawford supposedly is like a really like the front office really likes Crawford.
Very well regarded. But at a certain point, are you not getting enough when you're only getting 2 wins from your shortstop? Now, he was a 3-win player last year. He's shown that he can be a nice, solid 3-win guy. Is nice if you're getting surplus value at other spots there. 3 wins is not bad, but if they want one of these 5-win type guys, and then Colton Wong at second, does Crawford fall into a utility role?
Yeah, I think he would. I mean, I think maybe he becomes a super utility guy. You say, hey, maybe you learn the outfield a little bit, and if Kelenic isn't, up to snuff, maybe you are. Wong has injury history, so like,
true.
Maybe you become his backup at second base. Something happens to him, you're back to being a full-time player. But Crawford's one of those guys that I always love targeting in DCs because he just plays. Just plays, and like he's a guy who's just always going to be on the field, but not if he doesn't have a spot. So I'm a little bit worried about Crawford. Wong, I think, is fine. Like, yes, his power takes a hit a little bit, but the offense around him's going to be better. So maybe the counting categories are a little bit better for him. I think he's just kind of an underrated, veteran kind of guy that I love in deeper formats.
Yep, I think that's a great way to put it. And then, did you have anything you want to say about Toro? Are you taking him in DCs anymore? I know we liked him last year, but he really didn't come through for us.
I'm a little perturbed by this move. It's definitely a better park for him, but what's the role gonna be? Is he like the everyday second baseman? Is that like what they kind of look at him as? Like right now, Rick Ross.
We don't even have him on the team.
Yeah, Ross Resource says he's going down to the minors. I don't know. I really don't know.
I mean, Bryce Terang, that he's Jason's kind of Jason Martinez, who runs Ross Resource. A little bit of speculation there because Bryce Terang has not made the majors, but he did have a wonderful AAA season. So I understand why he's saying, hey, maybe this guy could break camp.
He's not going to break camp, though.
God,
Why
you
the
can't
cost
dismiss that out of
cutting
hand
the
anymore.
cost cutting Brewers who are trading away guys to save money, like.
But look at this trade they just did. It's money shuffling. I think. I don't think that they're just dumping money.
Yeah.
They traded because they didn't want to have to pay haters price this year. Which, hey, I'm always in favor of not wanting to pay a closer top dollar prices. They trade Wong, who is making 10 mil this year, but how much is Winker making? It can't be that far off.
Well, and they sent money with Wong, I think.
Okay. Oh yeah, Winker making 8.3 mil. So this is not. I don't think they're dumping. I don't think they're salary dumping everything.
I don't think they're dumping, but I also think they're
but if they're trying to save money, why wouldn't they bring Terang up?
Because they want a service time. You're a service time.
But you can get the draft pick if he wins Rookie of the Year. He plays all year.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's a little incongruous to say that they're dumping money, but then they wouldn't pay the rookie or play the rookie from day one. Especially now in a system that better incentivizes you to play guys who are ready from day one. I'm just careful not to dismiss out of hand guys breaking camp anymore. We used to just pretty much flat be like, oh, this guy's not going to break camp. This guy's not going to break
and I think
camp.
Milwaukee falls into one of these teams. I think they're going to be careful with service time on these guys. I think other teams that have shown to be more aggressive, especially now with the new rules, I think you can not worry about it so much. But I think Milwaukee just seems like a cheap team. Like they want to hold down guys.
Smart team for sure because they work on a more limited budget, but they're smart. I don't think they're just cutting corners to cut corners, and I don't think Bryce Terang needs to have his service time really like stifled. He's 23.
I don't either. But
not that high of an upside guy. I think he could break camp.
I hope he's not listening.
I think Bryce Terang's a perfectly solid guy, but he's not somebody that you're like, I gotta keep him down for those extra 3 weeks to get the extra year of service.
Future Hall of Famer Bryce Terang.
How dare you? A couple of trade rumors to discuss. Neither have come through yet. Maybe we'll have new landing spots for these guys on Friday's episode. But two guys really being discussed heavily right now. Brian Reynolds said, "I want out. Get me out of Schittsburg." He has officially made it clear that he wants out. He's been on the block, forever it seems. But now there's something behind it saying that they want. He wants out. Obviously, we would love to see Brian Reynolds on a different team just because it would improve his stock. Do you have a front runner that you would best like to see him on?
The Yankees?
I've been hearing that one a lot, and it makes some sense because you can put him on a corner. He doesn't have to play center then because you have Bader, who's way better.
I mean, there's one team in particular that I don't necessarily want to see him on, but would be really fun to see him on. And they have a GM who likes to make these kind of moves. In Dave Dombrowski.
That was my first thing, though.
You're wearing the hat right now.
I was literally giving when you said a GM likes to make moves, I'm like, oh, signing a veteran or trading for a veteran. You must be talking about Dombrowski. But I wasn't sure if you were going to give me another clue there. But yeah, I mean, you talk about that after adding Turner.
Screw my Brandon Marsh shares, but
I know that would kill your Marsh shares.
Maybe Marsh is part of the package.
Actually, wait. I don't think it would kill your Marsh shares. Get fucking Castellanos out of there. I know he made those great sliding catches, and Casty, I love you.
Yeah, but you got to have a place for Harper when Harper returns.
Now, you worry about that one. That's after Marsh puts up a 62 WRC plus while Harper's out, then you take him out. But initially, I don't think it would kill your boy because then you just put Castellanos at DH, Reynolds in a corner with Schwarber and Marsh in center.
I mean,
so I don't think it would initially.
I think it makes a lot of sense for them. Here another team. What's a team that just lost their center fielder, has a lot of money and a lot of prospects to trade, so a perfect fit? It's the Dodgers.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, if they don't go out and get, well, even if they do, right? You don't have to say if. I was say if they don't go out and get somebody like Rodon, yeah, they could get both. Let's be honest, especially since one's a trade, one's money. We got James Outman penciled in the left field right now. We got Trace Thompson penciled in the short, and I know they both listen. They've been listeners for a long time, so no shade to either of them.
And I've been drafting Outman everywhere, by the way. But this is like my last round pick.
I like that. I like taking the gamble on him in DCs, but this is the Dodgers. I cannot see them going into the season with those two as starters.
No.
So they make a lot of sense for a Reynolds trade, and we know that they've got the pieces to do it. Like
That being said, the Pirates have said they are not trading him. I don't believe
so
them.
he wants to trade, and they're trying to stand tough.
They were negotiating a long-term deal. The negotiations fell through. And he's like, all right, then you guys don't want to pay me, I'm out. Or I want out.
And they're saying no.
Yeah, because why would they? Like, I
mean,
got him for another 3 seasons.
That's what I was going to ask you. I'm pulling it up right now. Hang on.
Yeah, he's a free agent in 2026. They got him for 3 more seasons. He'll be ARB eligible for the first time next year. Like, he's
28 though. This is the time to trade him. It really is. I know it's hard for these crap teams to always trade their dudes, right as they're kind of hitting that arbitration.
And you can get a mint for center fielder.
Exactly it is that you can get so much for Reynolds right now because of the time that you have left, because of the quality of player that he is. I think you turn around and
send him to my Giants. Send him back to my Giants.
Exactly, because that's where he came from, and
McCutchen deal,
from McCutchen, right? Like, so that was pretty good player going back there. Now you guys are sending the McCutchen, you being the Pirates here. You guys get the big return here, and not a 1-for-1. Or actually, Kyle Crick was in that deal too. They can get like 2 strong prospects and maybe like a third throw into. They can get a big return here because it was a McCutchen rental, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So McCutchen rental for Reynolds. Reynolds has now overperformed where he was at the time of that trade. You're getting way more than that in return. So Pirates talking tough right now, saying they're not going to trade him. I'm with you. I call BS. I understand why they come out and say that, right? They don't want to give up their leverage.
Yeah, they don't want to give up any leverage.
But they're wrong. They're trading him. They're going to trade him. This one is going to be traded. In fact, they're hinting that like something's already done. We just don't know which team. Sean Murphy from Oakland on the way out is what we're hearing right now. We don't have anything concrete. The initial talk was there was some Braves rumoring, and now today was counter to that, saying he is still on the move, but it's not the Braves. But we don't have any info that's concrete as of 3:22 Central Time on Monday the 5th. But what do you think of the A's moving Sean Murphy? You're obviously not surprised by that, but if it's not the Braves, who do you think it is? Houston, Cleveland, other teams that could be interested? Those are just the 2 that I know. St. Louis, obviously they lost a catcher of import. So what do you think about Sean Murphy?
Oh man, this is tough because and I wrote him up last night because I did the ADP market report on catchers, and he was one of the guys who bumped up. I love Sean Murphy in Oakland, even though it's a shitty team. He plays every day.
6-something plate appearances this past year as a catcher.
619 plate appearances, led all of Major League Baseball for catchers. He will definitely lose 200 plate appearances being moved. He'll be on a better team and in a better park, no matter where he ends up. I mean,
does the Atlanta thing make any sense?
No.
Would Contreras go back?
And D'Arnaud.
I know.
Back. Yeah.
And Manny Pena is going to come back from. I think they had him on a 2-year. They did have him on a 2-year. So Manny Pena, who was supposed to be the backup.
Atlanta doesn't make sense at all. Houston makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely.
If they're willing to trade in division.
I think they would. Those 2 teams have traded.
I don't see why they wouldn't be. The Cubs, maybe?
And let Contreras walk?
Contreras already walked.
I'm saying don't re-sign him. He is currently a free agent.
Yeah, I don't think.
I think
Boston.
I could see Boston. I think Cleveland is still a good.
Cleveland makes a ton of sense, but
they might be going with Naylor though. They might be committed to Bo Naylor as their full-time guy. Houston, obviously, his price would skyrocket.
St. Louis makes the most sense.
St. Louis and Houston, I think, I think they're tied making the most sense.
Because now you move to a park that still sucks to hit in, and now you're definitely not going to be DHing regularly.
And probably bottom third of the lineup?
Yeah, so that would be worst case scenario.
Or at least bottom half.
Even though it's a much better team, you'd still be looking in losing 200 plate appearances and being in a really bad park. So probably not back to 20 home runs. And
especially if he doesn't get 7,000 plate appearances. Sean Murphy is currently the 11th catcher off the board at pick 132. That's That's December only. That's just
Mhm.
narrowing it down to 4 drafts because I just want to see based on the rumoring heating up. I'm going to give you the team. You tell me where you think he generally goes if he goes there. Houston. Does he move up from 11?
Yeah, he moves up from 11 in Houston.
Like top,
Rightfully so. Yeah, I
like
mean,
obviously he would go into the top 10. Unless you're thinking, yeah, even if he moved up 1, that would still be top 10. Do you think he goes more like 5, 6? Or actually, there's a
mm,
big gap here. He could slot in. Adley's at 61 at number 5. Alejandro Kirk is at pick 94 as catcher number 6. Do you think Murphy goes into into the middle between those
I
two,
I
or does he
think
join the 90s with Kirk, Contreras, and Melendez?
yeah, Kirk Contreras Melendez.
Okay, so he's in the 90s. What about if he goes to Cleveland?
Ooh, that's an interesting spot because he could still DH there.
He
Like
could,
that's a place where like he could still
and
find
that's
plate appearances.
a neutral park, like or
Yeah,
leans somewhat hittery. If I'm
I think it leans
crazy,
somewhat hittery
let me
for
look for
righties.
righties.
Yeah.
So do you think he'd go up to the same spot, a little bit lower, or
I
what?
think he'd probably go. I don't think he's jumping up into that upper tier. I don't care where he ends up.
Okay, yeah, and Houston was the best one, so I figured we would probably work
Yeah.
down from here. Cleveland's better for lefties than righties. It's more neutral for
Okay.
righties, better for positive for lefties. And then the last spot that we said, St. Louis, which you don't like, would
Oh,
he
I think he'd still move up, but I would probably be out.
go ahead of William Contreras at pick 118? He's 132 right now for Sean
I
Murphy,
think
is who we're talking about.
I don't think he would because I think William Contreras is the like fun young guy.
I agree. I think I agree with your assessment on all 3 there. I'm maybe a little bit higher if he goes to Houston. I do think he would fit in that 61 to 94 range between Rutschman and Kirk, but you don't have him going much further than that because Contreras and Melendez are 99 and 100 respectively. And you said he was going to be in that Kirk to Melendez group. So we're pretty lockstep there on Sean Murphy. Let me refresh trade rumors to make sure that we don't have anything else as we wrap up here. Kodai Senga getting interest. We're not going to talk about him until he inks somewhere. Oh, last one here. Last one, just real quick. Luis Arise getting some trade rumors, which kind of surprises me. What do you think about that? Is he somebody that you're interested in just coming, regardless of whether Luis Arise was traded or not? Did his 2022 season bring your interest in him up when he hit 316, 8 homers, and he was 4 for 8 on the bases? Are you intrigued by Luis Arise now? He's first and second eligible.
Oh, only first and second eligible. That becomes
yeah, he had second, third, and outfield last year.
I'm still interested because I mean he's like a top, just inside the top 200 kind of pick right now.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is the other guys going around him. I like. I mean, he's going ahead of Josh Bell. You know,
I don't know about that.
You know, going ahead of triple eligible DJ LeMahieu, going ahead of Josh Naylor, going ahead of Matt Murray. So I feel like
is the community going to sleep on LeMahieu again?
Absolutely.
We did last year.
Yeah, I'm fine.
We got influenced by.
He's still triple eligible. He's still got first, second, and third. So like
it was heavy roster resource influence. Remember, he was penciled in as a bench player, and I think a lot of us were just like, well, you know. And I'm not shading Jason on that. I understood why he mapped it out that way, but push come to shove, LeMahieu was too good. He played a bunch when healthy and ended up being a bit of a draft bargain. I could see that happening again. What does Luis Arise do for an encore here? We know he's always been a good batting average guy. That wasn't really a surprise that he got a batting average crown, hitting 316. The 8 homers, though, were a pretty significant jump. He hit 2 the year before. So while it's still just 8, I mean, it's 4x. Like that, you know, it's not the same as a 10 home run hitter 4xing. I understand that. Do you think he can be an 8 to 10 kind of guy, or do you think Luis Arise just got lucky with 8 homers this past year?
I think it can, depending on the park. So I think it really depends on where he were to end up.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable projecting 6, 7, 8 home runs, something like that. But if he were to end up in Cincinnati's not going to trade for him.
That would be the best part, though.
Yeah, you know.
What about the Angels? They need a second baseman.
I mean, they got David Fletcher.
who's basically the same. Never mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. They already
I
have
mean,
Luis Arise, and they got Luis Rengifo, who kind of cuts an Arise. Actually, he's got more punch.
yeah.
He had 17 homers. Never
I'm
mind.
like trying to think of like a
And-
good land. Here's
yeah,
an interesting
I was
one.
only saying Angels because they're a good park for lefties. By the way, there's no rumoring of him to the Angels. Where do you think Arise would fit?
You look for a team that maybe has a number of holes where he could play all over the place.
Yeah, that's actually a
Um,
good way to look at it.
and a team, but the team that's still kind of competing and could use it. What about the Red Sox? Like, he
Yeah,
could play all. Bogarts is potentially gone.
almost certainly
He
gone.
he
Yep.
he could play second. He could play third if they do move on from Devers, because there's been talk that they could trade Devers. So could play the
He
outfield.
can
Like,
bounce in the outfield. Yep. And I mean, he played a lot of firsts this year. I don't think you want Luis Arise as your first
no,
baseman on a
and they've
first
got
division
they've got
team,
like 3 first basemen.
but they all had different levels of grave disappointment. Hosmer's just not good. Casas only played for 27 games. He was actually good. He just didn't play that much. He was fine. But then Dahlbeck, he just struck out right now. I don't know why he's striking out right. He's a cute. I'm looking at his page. It's like spinning like a little counter. Strikeouts are just going up right now. There's not even games happening.
What about the Giants? I mean, it would be awful for his home run production, but make a lot of
everything
sense.
else,
The Giants wanted Wong before he was traded to Seattle. So like,
and you guys could
Giants?
bounce him around too.
Yeah, he'd be a perfect kind of guy for the Giants.
You're platooning
Like,
all sorts of stuff.
I mean, he would probably hit 400, but he's only going to hit like 3 home runs.
He'd be like that Donovan Solano season.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, there's some Arise rumors.
I feel like around pick 200, I think I'm trying to look for the next Luis Arise.
Yeah,
as opposed to paying for that price, especially because he just puts you at such a deficit in home runs and RBIs.
Yeah,
the batting average is great, and maybe like if you have this like really like high upside, like power, speedy team, but your batting average is in real doubt, like then you go, okay, I'm gonna add Luis Arise, and he's gonna help solidify some batting average for me. But it's really like a team contextual play.
I completely agree. And how I feel about these guys. I got a plan to take them because that power hurts so much. You really have to have the power mapped out. These batting average only guys and speedsters, I really want to plan to take them. They can be a pivot in draft. Like you said, if you're stacking up a bunch of batting average risks, you could then go to a Rise, but you got to be careful. And I did say Donovan Solano season. I should have said Donovan Solano run with San Francisco, because from 19 to 21, he was really nice for y'all. 308, 354, 435, but he hit 14 homers in 775 plate appearances. So I think the comp kind of works there, that Luis Arise would be a bit Solano-esque.
I'd rather like take a gamble on like the Michael Massey's of the world, like 200 picks later, or I'm trying to think of other like potential batting out. You have Michael Brantley's going 440, like
Oh yeah.
Give me those kind of batting average guys as opposed to taking a gamble on a guy who's going to give me potentially like he could hit 2 home runs and it would not surprise me.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. No, I would totally think that that's every bit as viable as him hitting another 8 for Luis Arise. But again, these are early rumors. We don't even know what's necessarily going on. I just saw his name floating around a bunch today, and we're getting a lot of other rumors as well. The winter meetings are going on, and I'll tell you what, if we get too many moves here in the middle of the week, we might have to do an impromptu episode. But for now,
absolutely. Well, and now that we're recording on Mondays and Fridays, maybe we'll add a third Wednesday episode to get something in the middle.
Love that idea,
especially in season.
Yes, absolutely. In season, you can damn near plan for it. Off season here, we'll see how our schedules are working, but we're still pumping everything out, having a good time with it. You're still working on your projections, working on mine and my rankings. Justin, I'm gonna let you get back to work, man, but I will talk to you on Friday.
Take it easy.